Hi guys, so Boris Johnson responded to the latest saga surrounding the Northern Ireland Protocol. What happened was that the DUP, getting nowhere with their demands on Lord Frost and Liz Truss and even Boris Johnson himself to trigger Article 16 of the Northern Ireland Protocol, they have decided that they will suspend checks on goods moving from Great Britain to Northern Ireland. Well, as there's a complete lack of leadership in Westminster to deal with such a problem, Boris Johnson showed a complete lack of leadership and indifference to international obligations. Again. Here he is talking to Sky News.
On Northern Ireland, on the protocol, will you ensure that checks on goods are carried out, which is part of the international agreement that you agreed and signed?
I hope that we can get... I know that Liz Truss is seeing Maroš Šefčovič again, I think, today. And that's great that the conversations are continuing. What we've got to do is get to a sensible solution that recognises that it's crazy to have checks on goods that are basically circulating within the single market of the United Kingdom.
Can you imagine somebody agreeing to that? Can you imagine somebody signing an agreement and then selling it to the public? What fool would do such a thing?
What you could have, of course, is commonsensical, practical steps to weed out, to check on things that might be at risk of circulation, as they say in Brussels, at risk of circulation in Ireland as well as Northern Ireland.
Okay, just think about that from a practical point of view. Imagine you decide, okay, for example, I'll use my own family as an example. My wife loves cooking Indian food. And she orders on Amazon spices. I love Indian food as well. Really big fan of it. And every once in a while arrives a package from Amazon in a box, cardboard box, that contains Indian spices. But I don't know if the box contains Indian spices until I open the box. Lots of other boxes arrive, maybe with a book or a phone cable or something like that. But I don't know which contain Indian spices until I open the box. Boris Johnson is suggesting that, yes, we can find out which boxes contain Indian spices without actually opening the boxes. It's absurd. You have to check everything in order to check which things are going to end up in the single market, flowing into Ireland. You have to check everything. Does Boris Johnson not know this, or once again is he pretending not to know this?
Now, we can do that, but without having a full panoply of checks on the GBNI coast and at the airport.
But look, the European Commission reduced the checks by 80%. So it's not even the case that they're carrying out checks on everything. Some things they've decided we're not going to check. So it's not that there's a huge overall check taking place. That's not the case. Minor checks are being carried out. A minority of checks are being carried out. But the real issue, and I've talked about this before, is not checks, it's declarations. But for the DUP, they want to focus on the checks. That's why they have politicised this issue.
And that's the way forward. I think practical common sense is what's needed.
Isn't that going back, though, on what you agreed?
Actually, if you look at the protocol, which I'm sure you have studied in detail, there's plenty about uninterrupted east-west trade.
You're saying if you look at the protocol, then you should be implementing the protocol. You don't say, yeah, I'm here to defend the protocol, we should implement the protocol, but we're going to allow somebody to suspend part of the protocol or undermine the protocol. You have an obligation, you have an international obligation to make sure that the protocol is implemented. It's not the DUP, it's you. The DUP are not running the country. Boris Johnson's government is running the country, and they have signed this agreement. It wasn't the DUP that signed the agreement. It wasn't the Northern Ireland executive that signed the agreement. Boris Johnson signed the agreement with the European Union. Ultimately, he is responsible. And unfortunately, he's not taking his responsibilities seriously. He never has. He never will. Just imagine for a moment if this had been any other government. I don't think we would have gotten to this stage, but any other government, any other Tory leader even, would have signed, yes, okay, we have to implement these checks. The DUP are not carrying them out, well, then we will carry them out. That is our international obligation. We're not going to break international law. But then we're talking about Boris Johnson and the Brexiteers. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.